Welcome to the Financial Flow. Please like and subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to stay up on our latest videos. Benjamin Graham provides a framework and logical arguments in The Intelligent Investor that will help you control your emotions. He has arguably had one of the best investment strategies over the past 100 years. Take this person for instance. Consider that you purchased a $1,000 share of a company. Every day, a specific individual visits your house and offers an estimation of the value of your ownership stake in the company. He also makes the offer to buy your share or sell you a second one based on that. History has demonstrated that a person's assessment of the value of your contribution to the company may be complete nonsense. For instance, he determined the value of your share to be $2,600 back in March 2000. In March 2001, just 1 year later, he estimated its value to be $500, despite the fact that during the same period, the company's income increased by 50% and its profit by 20%. Should you let this man determine the value of your $1,000 interest in that company? Obviously not. One of the Graham's fundamental beliefs is that a stock represents an ownership stake in a company, not just a ticker symbol and the price. The underlying value of a business may differ from the price he is willing to pay for it because the person isn't always rational. Graham suggests that you make an investment if you are confident that you will be able to hold on to the stock in the future despite its fluctuating price. We must remember that, in contrast to today, people were not as inundated with the news, forecasts, and stock quotes when Graham wrote this book. Just ignore him and carry on with your life even though the person is trying to force you, even though it doesn't meet the requirements. The next section focuses on defensive investing strategies. According to Graham, there are two types of investors: the conservative or passive investor, and the intrepid or active investor. Due to their limited investment time, the majority of people are better suited for the defensive strategy. The defensive investor should build a portfolio that is split roughly 50-50 between stocks and bonds. Keep in mind that the amount you should invest in each asset category will depend on your personal circumstances and the current gap between the average yields of stocks and bonds. Restore this allocation once or twice a year. If stocks suddenly account for 60% of your portfolio, while bonds only make up 40%, you should sell your stocks and buy bonds until the ratio is back to 50-50. Invest a set sum of money on a consistent basis. For instance, immediately after you receive your pay, dollar cost averaging is what will enable a reasonable average price for stocks and bonds. Most importantly, it will guarantee that you don't focus your buying at the incorrect time. The defensive investor should strive for the following 8 for the stock portion of the portfolio. Number 1, he invests in a variety of businesses. Number 2, the businesses needed to be big, which Graham defined as having annual sales of more than $100 million. This is equivalent to roughly $700 million in today's dollars after inflation. Number 3, look for companies that are conservatively financed. Such a business has no current ratio, that is at least 200%. Number 4, for at least the previous 20 years, dividends ought to have been given to shareholders. Number 5, there hasn't been a 10-year earnings deficit. Number 6, earnings have increased by at least 33% over the past 10 years, which equates to a 2.9% annual growth rate. Number 7, never overpay for items. The stock price shouldn't go beyond 1.5 times its net asset value. And lastly, number 8, avoid overpaying for earnings. The next topic is how to invest like a savvy investor. It would seem easy to beat the market, given how simple it is for a defensive investor to obtain the market's average return. According to this logic, being a savvy investor and outperforming the market is much more difficult. It takes a lot of time, patience, discipline, and eagerness to learn. Many experts and individual investors are not suitable for this. Since the potential profits that businesses can generate are limited, the price that a wise investor would be prepared to pay for these businesses must also be limited. For the astute investor, price is undoubtedly a crucial consideration. Similar to how the market tends to overvalue businesses that have experienced rapid growth or are glamorous for other reasons, it also tends to undervalue businesses that have experienced unsatisfactory development. Therefore, The wise investor should make every effort to steer clear of so-called growth stocks, because future earnings, which are less reliable than current valuations, account for a relatively larger portion of the investment decision. On the other hand, if you can locate a business that is worth less than its net working capital, you essentially pay nothing for all of the fixed assets. By deducting total liabilities from current assets, one can calculate net working capital. During Graham's career as an investor, these businesses were shown to be genuinely profitable. Sadly, they are uncommon today unless there is a severe bear market. Fortunately, Graham offers a different strategy for the resource investor to find investments. These criteria are comparable to those defensive investors should employ, but because the restrictions are less stringent, the enterprising investor is free to take into account more businesses. Note that there is absolutely no restriction on the size of the company. Additionally, diversification should be used, but the active investor is free to hold as many companies as they want. The next step is to demand a safety margin. One risk cannot be completely eliminated by careful consideration: the risk of being incorrect. However, you can reduce this risk. You must insist on a margin of safety for each investment you make in order to achieve this. As was previously stated, a company's price and value are not always the same. The investor has discovered a company with a sufficient margin of safety when the price is no more than 2/3 of its calculated value. Should you purchase stock you think is currently being offered at $30 but is actually worth, let's say, $31 instead, you can get an idea of a company's value and whether it can be purchased with a margin of safety by using a formula from the book. Value is equal to current or normal earnings multiplied by 8.5 plus the anticipated annual growth rate. The growth rate ought to match the anticipated yearly growth rate of earnings over the following 7 to 10 years. Notably, we can use the formula in reverse to determine how much these companies must expand over the next 7 to 10 years in order for their stock prices to be reasonable today. Last but not least, risk and reward aren't always linked. The rate of return that an investor can anticipate must be proportional to the level of risk that he is willing to accept. According to academic theory, the investment return's volatility, or how much it has historically deviated from its expected value, is then used to calculate risk. Graham disagrees with this assertion. Instead, he contends that the value and price of assets are frequently unrelated. As a result, the return an investor can expect depends on how much time and effort he puts into looking for undervalued assets. The investor who is defensive or passive will receive the lowest return, while the entrepreneurial investor who uses their full intelligence and skill will receive the highest return. Keep in mind that value and price are not the same. When you purchase a company for 90 cents on the dollar, you are taking a low risk with a high reward potential. A better potential reward and even lower risk can be found if you can locate another business that you can purchase for 70 cents on the dollar. Who in their right mind would claim that purchasing a dollar at a price of 70 cents is riskier than purchasing a dollar at a price of 90 cents, simply because the potential reward is higher? In conclusion, the market occasionally exhibits both overconfidence and underconfidence. Don't let this sway your estimation of the true value of your assets. The defensive investor should then opt for a well-balanced portfolio of stocks and bonds, with a stock category consisting mainly of low-priced issues. The astute investor should then focus on stocks that exhibit lower price tendencies. The next point is that the wise investor should demand a safety margin when purchasing an asset. The fifth and final lesson is that risk and reward aren't always related. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. Have a good one.